Welcome back to Story Deep Dive with Rachel and Dana. This is a podcast where two book coaches, editors, and besties discuss books not as readers but as writers to draw inspiration from great books and have plenty of laughs along the way. And this week, we are kicking off our discussion of Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. We have loads of great stuff in store for you over the next 3 weeks. And we've got like a really, obviously this is a big content change from last month's book, which was Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. So we're shifting into this is a love story. It's an African-American romance. We have so much great stuff to talk about. But before we dive deep into our sort of overview of this novel, I got to check in with Dana over at Danger Tales. And I'm going to need you to tell me, Dana, like I ask you every week, what's going on over there? What you got cooking?
I think why you gonna say like I ask you every week like that was gonna help me remember what
I was just trying to like warm it up, and I was like, just buy her a little time, and just get the gears moving. You're like, oh yeah, it's all right. It's about to be my turn for small talk. I'm ready.
No, I'm not that excited about it. Let's see. Well, at the time of this recording, y'all always have to say that because we record out of order. At the time of this recording, I am really starting to I haven't started writing, but I'm starting to pull together my notes for my trilogy. This is not about Danger Tales, but it kind of is. I haven't started another book. I've been plotting while we were on the winter break, and then I have some sort of big projects that I had on the back burner for years that I really wanted to sort of dust off and sort of start anew, but it just started going. And so I'm really excited about it. I have no sense of expectations other than I want to be able to like get a draft of the entire trilogy done. What's the deadline? I have no idea or clue. I'm going to get it together because I need a framework. Like I need a timeline. To really know what I'm doing. But yeah, so I'm working on that. And then for the community, we are really trying to work through whether we're going to do another boot camp.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's a big commitment. So I appreciate that you were like, okay, I gotta like really think through this, because that was a wild, what was that, 6 weeks, 4 weeks?
Well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that ever again.
Oh, okay. We're gonna pare that thing way down. I got it.
I'm not doing that ever again. I'm not
doing that. The speed that answer came up. No, I'm not doing that ever again. Tells me everything I need to know.
No. They asked this. No. I want to do one just for plotting. They want to do everything. I'm not doing everything again. The plotting portion went really well.
Yeah.
But we don't have to do the brand and all that. That can always be redone. But the thing that happened last time is it's essentially like a webinar that the information and the replays are limited replays.
Yeah.
So there's no existing information to go back to, but we do have the information in DTW. So yeah, I just have to prepare my mind for that back to back.
Yeah.
And have a student that is ready to plot at that pace in a week.
Yeah. How many sessions would that be? Like if you were to do like a boot camp, would it be one a day or multiple sessions a day, or what's the?
One a day.
Okay.
One a day for 5 days.
Yeah. Okay. That's still a lot of.
It is.
Yeah. We did back in December, we did a revision weekend where it was like we did 2 sessions a day for 3 days. And
where was I?
I think you were, I don't know, man. The announcement went out and we did, but it was doing those sessions. The reason I was asking is because I know that you've done, I think, like when you do your weekend the weekend workshop at the end of the year, you do a couple of sessions per day, right? Where you have like a
Yeah, for
morning and an
3
afternoon
days.
session. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's so, yeah. So I was wondering if the boot camp had but it's one session. I mean, that's not nothing, but
It's
it's one
yeah,
session per day.
it's normally the boot camp is a total of 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 hour is the actual boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
like teaching hands-on with the student. And then the hour after that is for VIP
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
ask questions, to
Yeah.
give feedback, etc.
Yeah.
And that's done for 5 days. I want to do it. Well, I've been asked to do it, but I want to do it using. Well, we used our framework before, but that was before I had the blueprint done.
Mm-hmm.
That was like
Yeah.
an early revision of it.
Yeah.
And so I teach the 4-act structure,
Mm-hmm.
and the author plots that act.
Yeah. Which is like, that's really cool to get to see that sort of like happen in real time for them to kind of get to like, for number one, for the author, right? And you do have to find like you do have to find someone who's like, all right, you're gonna be like ready to do, because this is no joke, you know. But then for the attendees to get to see in real time, right, that development and see it happening in action, and seeing you work with someone of like, okay, do we have this, did we do this, this is missing, or this part is weak, and like to be able to kind of see that in action,
Mm-hmm.
those specific examples, to like really see the, because it's like one thing to see it in a finished work, which is super helpful, which is why we use examples, we love those, but then to see it in process, that is a different side of getting to see how it works and how to approach it, because now you're looking at building something from the ground up versus unpacking something that's already finished.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a really great opportunity for the student who's at the sort of center of it, and for the students who are watching.
Yeah, and I think what I found last time, I mean, it was long, but I mean, we had almost 100% attendance, which was amazing, is the fact that I almost feel like the areas where there were a lot of hard edits and revisions were the most telling.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of
Believe it.
times what you find, especially for people who, if they're not a big plotter and they're trying to be, or
Yeah.
they really haven't nailed it, you really can spot a lot. Especially when you have a pretty and locked in framework, right?
Yeah.
And it helps them to see. And that's why I love having templates. I love having templates, and I love having frameworks, because it sort of is like you can put them side by side and to be able to work it through. And then I can also see where they haven't developed their characters enough, and where they don't know enough about their plot, I mean, like their conflict architecture is off or faulty. And then being able to give them directions. And then last time, because it was so long, we had one student that was doing contemporary romance and another student that was doing PNR. And that was really helpful.
Yeah.
But the contemporary student, we didn't do plotting for her. She did the sort of the lead up. No, we did do plotting. We did do plotting. We did her skeleton. And then the other one, we had a little more in depth, but with more, it was longer, like the expanded outline. And this time I think I would want to stick with just a contemporary romance, like a steamy romance, because it would be a great just demonstration of it.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I have to decide. Well, at the time of recording, like I literally have less than a week to decide.
Ooh. We talk about this in a different episode, but scream if you want to go faster. Woo!
Okay. I mean, but the good thing is, like, I already have everything. Like, it's already planned, and I just have to decide, who to make the offer to. But I mean, it wouldn't be like next week, the actual thing, but I want to decide by then, so I'd have enough time.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm not that crazy, but just
that's. I mean, honestly, you never know, because before you did the like 6 week or 4 week or whatever, that crazy boot camp, I think you told me about it a week before it was happening, and you're like, oh yeah, I decided I'm gonna do this thing. Also, it starts next week. Like it was, so that's like not
Yeah.
necessarily off the table.
Well, that time was out of my control. I mean, it was a little bit out of my control because I needed to do the number of weeks that I needed, but I
Yeah.
didn't want it to bump into,
Yeah,
was
you had
it
other
a
stuff going
holiday?
on.
Yeah, it was like,
Um,
it was for the certification. So it kind of,
yeah,
I had a deadline
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I loved it. It was tiring, but I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. It was
Yeah. I
so
know
good.
it did really well. And I know,
It
again, the
did.
people are like, can we do it again? And you're like, no,
No,
we can't.
not like that.
But
I
I'm
don't think
glad you
I'll
enjoyed
ever
it.
do that again.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't think I will ever do that again. I was like, I was insane. And I still had to like record and do feedback and give them notes every day.
Oh
And
my
because they
goodness.
were working on it that night.
Yeah.
So I had quite a bit of work to do after.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah.
After an already long day.
Oh, when your brain is like
Ooh.
mush because
Oh
you're
man.
on, like on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was worth it. I would do
Yeah.
it. I mean, I say I wouldn't do it again, but I would do it again for them. But
Yeah.
girl, I don't have to do it ever for me. Like, I don't get to do it ever for me. So yeah, I'm gonna decide soon. Even talking about it now, I'm like, I know I'm gonna do it, but
Yeah.
I haven't decided.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, like this. So yeah, but yeah. Other than that, like everything else is in full swing. Our regular meetings are back. Our sprints are back. So we're back, our 5 a.m. sprints. Live writing is back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we do that 2 hours twice a month. So we're back. Like
Yeah,
everything
we're
is back
fully
to,
back
yep,
online.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
that's
yep.
great.
Oh,
The year is starting and getting back to it.
yeah, yeah. So what about you, ma'am? What do you got going on at Story Cipher?
You're like back in like full swing. I am still getting my feet because who got hella sick at the beginning of January was me. Oh my God. I got took out. I
You
was just
did.
the legs out from under me. I had a fever for 5 straight days, like 102 fever. Could not get rid of it. And I would take cold medicine that would like kind of get me through. There were a few. I rescheduled as many work calls as I could, but not all of them felt like calls that I could reschedule, and so it could like get me through a call, but I was sitting there like willing myself to live during those calls.
Oh no.
But it was tough. It was tough. And then the week after was like the like post sick, like can't quite get your brain back together, tired all the time. I do one thing and I'm like, I have to lie down. I need a rest. But during that time though, I will tell you, we did our first Act 1 review. We did a hot seat for one of our students. So she is in the kind of like final drafting. So she's like in third draft, just kind of getting it tightened up. And we did a group sort of like coaching session where she submitted her first act, and anybody who wanted to read it could read it. I had some guiding questions for how, like, for anybody who had thoughts to kind of help guide, like, here's what you should be looking for, here's the kinds of questions to be answering and to be thinking about. And we sat down and we had a hot seat session. It was like an hour and a half session, talking about her first act, helping identify her stakes, making sure that our central story promise was crystal clear, talking about how invested we were in the protagonist. And it was so stinking fun. And, she got a lot out of it. So now she's like going back, and before she writes the rest of the draft, she's going to kind of tweak some of the things that we discussed to get a feel for it inside of an act that she's like very familiar with, right? Of like, okay, let me go back into Act 1 to kind of do like a trial run of like some line editing, stuff that we kind of talked about, to like, oh, here's where you can pull this back and push this forward, to make some like slight adjustments to sort of some of her scene arrangement. And so she's kind of getting to go back and like implement that feedback so that she has it kind of clear and solidified before she writes writes her third draft of Acts 2, 3, and 4. And so that was really, really fun. Like, it was such a great session. And I think the best part is that, like, she showed up not knowing how people would feel about her work, right? Because this is like, that's always, man, sharing your stuff is like uncomfortable. And this was like the first time doing it, and being able to come out, and what she found was that people loved it, right? They were excited about it. They loved her protagonist. They were excited about like where the story was going. They wanted to know more. And like,
What was the niche?
She's writing a mystery. So it's sort of like it's sort of a historical, with like a little bit, like, it's a little bit gothic. It's a little bit, it's so good. I don't want to say too much because I was like, oh, this is her story. Like, I haven't been given, but it's at its heart, it is a mystery. And so, I always want those hot seats to be like, they have actionable feedback, right? That they can take away, that they know what to do with their story, and they know how to, whatever to tackle. But one of the best parts of doing something like that is for someone who doesn't know how people are going to respond to their work to get the encouragement that, like, people care about this story. People want this story. People are excited about this story. And that, my feedback is good. Okay. Like, it's good feedback, but there's something about the emotional side of that, right? To sort of just re-motivate you. Cause once you're getting into the third draft, you're kind of having to really get in there, and you're just tweaking stuff, and you're really trying to make sure that the thing is tight and that it works. And so to have that added fuel, right, of, oh man, people are actively excited and invested in my story, and they want to see the rest of it. I feel like it gives you that extra push to be like, oh yeah, like, I'm ready to get back into it, and to just keep working with it, and keep, doing the hard stuff and the fun stuff, and just to kind of give it that extra push. And so that was so rewarding to do, like, and so fun. So we had a really great time. And again, it was like the first one we did. She was our first volunteer, which is like, that's always a position of honor, to be willing to be the first person to go and do that thing. And so I'm looking forward to, we've got several students who are kind of in the thick of drafting right now. So I'm really looking forward to when we get to do it again for the next student who sort of has their next act ready. So it was really good. We had a great time with loads of good discussion. So,
okay. Now, so how do you feel? Because that's like, I think you've done this before. It's not new, but it is new, right?
Yeah.
It is new to be in the academy, to be someone who's been working on something, and to come in and to start off this process, and to now have something in working form to share, and to share publicly. So how do you feel?
I am like so grateful for the group of people that we had in the academy. Like, I could not have asked for a better, they just are so dedicated, right? They're like, when it was first draft month, they were like, I know I'm writing a full length novel. I'm right. Cause again, the whole thing was like, we're doing novellas, so that way drafting in a month feels more approachable. Cause it's really hard to write a first draft of, your first novel in a month. People do it.
During that time with y'all, I just didn't finish. I finished the book, but I didn't get to come back to a meeting. Yes.
I'm glad you finished the book though. Yeah. And so we have the most fantastic group of people. And so, this is our first group of fellows who sort of graduated the program, and to see them coming out with, again, these are, several of my students have been trying to write something for 5 or 10 years, and to see them showing up with a manuscript in their hands, right? Something that is ready to share with others, and that, like, it's in a state that people are like, yeah, I'm into this. I want more of this, right? That is like, that's such a moment of like joy to be able to see that happen, to be able to see the community responding to their work, and to be able to sort of like rally around a writer, right, in their process together as a group. that is like, that's why, like, I say it jokingly, but I mean it so deeply, of like, writing is more fun with friends, right? Like when you
Yeah.
have people to share that journey with, it can help keep you going. It is one of the things that can keep you going, and give you that encouragement and give you the feedback that you need, right? Like it's just, so yeah, it was a really proud moment to be like, you did it. You have a thing. You have a, like, I know you're not ready to publish it yet, but you have a thing, and it is a finished first act, like revised, that people were able to follow. We didn't, it was no bullet points, no TK, right? None of the kind of like leftovers of like, your thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but a cohesive whole that people were able to say, I could follow this and I'm excited about wherever it's going and where is the next act, because I would really like to read it. So yeah, it was a great, I feel like it was a real highlight. And oh my God, we started that the second week of January. Like that's like where we started, which is like,
Oh,
oh man, it's only getting better from
exciting.
here. Heck yeah.
Right. It's right. I was over the break, I was thinking about, I need to get back into journaling. I am really, I don't do a good job of documenting, like, just like case studies and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And we were reviewing like some of the stuff that people turn in to clients, contracts, publishing contracts last year.
Oh, that's
And I'm like,
awesome.
I know I remember right now. Well, I remember
Yeah.
now. But I really just try to be in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but I just feel like at the end of the day, this is one of those things where there it is such, the reward is the excitement and um the accomplishment, but how it's just like this huge myth buster
Hmm.
about whether they can or
Yeah.
not, whether their idea is strong enough or not. Can
Yeah.
they, like that, when you break that down and you break it down for good, it's like,
Hmm.
do I feel
Yeah.
like, what's
Can't
that
stop them.
song? Oh, goodness. That hip hop song. Who is that? I don't know who it is. Nothing can stop me. I'm on my way up. Oh, you don't know the
Yeah. Oh,
song.
yeah. I'm not gonna. I
I'm gonna
got.
send it to you. I'm gonna have to send it to you.
It's gonna be my
It
morning
just know
affirmation.
if
Just
it's
listen
a
to it every
gym. Yeah,
morning.
come on. What you gonna do, Rachel? Don't do it like that. I'm gonna send it to you.
The thing, here's the unfortunate thing. I went into metalhead, right? Because like that's what I'm
That's
like
what
gonna
you
be.
do.
So I sort of like went for like the head nod with like with my my hands on my headphones, and I went for more of like the headbang, which was the wrong move. Anyway, this is.
You are such a wonderful and special person.
Okay, see, you could have stopped at wonderful. I feel like you're a special person. This feels like, whoa, hang on. No, this feels like it stopped being a compliment here.
Oh my God, it is. It is. I promise it is. It
Oh my
is.
goodness. Oh man, I'm really hoping that, on the view, like the video view, that no one was able to see the gesture that I made. Just desperately hoping that is not the moment when the camera like pans over to me.
It's gonna pan. It's gonna
It's
pan
gonna
because he
pan.
got us real bad last year, so it's gonna pan.
It sure is. It sure is. All
Oh
right.
gosh.
Well, my complete gooberness aside, do we want to go ahead and dive into our overview of Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan?
Absolutely.
All right. Hit us with that summary.
All right. Not hit us. Here we go. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan is a second chance romance that begins after the marriage has already ended. Yasmin and Josiah are divorced, but their lives remain deeply intertwined through co parenting their children and running the restaurant they built together. Both are trying to move forward, yet unresolved grief, emotional avoidance, and years of shared history keep pulling them back into each other's orbit. As therapy, parenting challenges, and long buried feelings surface, the, the story becomes less about whether they still love each other and more about whether they are capable of choosing each other again.
So good. So
Yes.
good. Um,
Yay.
so what are some of the overarching kind of like subject areas that you want to hit to kind of prepare everyone for our discussion over the next 3 weeks? What are some of those big topics?
hmm I'm going to just read what I have on the list. I know some may be mine, some may be yours, but we'll work it out. We always do. The first thing that we are going to talk a little bit about is that this is an African American romance. We talk about it a little bit in the future episodes, but this is more so to sort of orient people.
Hmm.
This story is an amazing story and it sort of transcends that genre, but it is
Yeah.
helpful to sort of ground us. And I think it plays a lot into the core conflict of the story.
Hmm.
We also are going to talk about, I see this story as being like a mature, realistic romance.
Hmm.
And that's not a genre. I think the closest that we would probably have as a niche would be like later in life.
Yeah.
But we find that this is a story that really is about people we feel like we know or
Hmm.
we could know, and like how some of those elements sort of settle into the story that make it almost feel like a sense of nostalgia, but it also is one of those things that sort of challenge the story to be, like endear us to the readers as well. I'm sorry, to the characters as
Hmm.
well as keeping us on the hook for this particular story. Another thing we want to talk about is that this is a very unique romance in that it is not about falling in love.
Yeah.
This is a second chance romance, but I'll talk about some of the differences that you'll see with most second chance romances and
Hmm.
how this one, I don't want to say that it's unique, like no one has ever done it kind of unique, but it's not common.
Hmm.
And she does it really well. The other thing we're going to talk about briefly is that at the core of the story, it really talks a lot about grief and
Hmm.
therapy. And so we're talking about a heavy hitter topic.
Yeah.
And she does a great job with this, but we
Yeah.
kind of are setting up because we will talk about this in almost every episode
Yeah.
because it is sort of the spine as well as the foundation of the story.
Hmm.
And the final thing that I want to talk a little bit about is that kind of piggybacking off of the realistic romance, this story has a very realistic HEA, which is a
Hmm.
happily ever after. And it has a lot of hope here because, again, kind of like before, you feel like you know these people. You can see
Hmm.
how these people got here and the way she handles it throughout the story. It really does make for a nice place to land. It doesn't feel fantastical or feel like escapism. Um, but more so about people finally being able to get to a place where they are wholeheartedly ready to accept love.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I just sort of have like and this is gonna kind of, yeah, it's gonna nest or like right under
hmm
yours, about character creation and the realistic characters and how this contrasts with some of the previous books that we've read, right? Because we have this whole catalog behind us now, all of 2025, where we've seen sort of this different gamut of characters and communities and casts. And so I think it's a great opportunity to look back and see how this one differs, especially for someone who's wanting to write more real, like they want to write a story more like this, that's more leaning into that realistic, the realistic story, the realistic characters, and sort of even maybe more into that sort of mature space. Um, so, do we want to go ahead and just kind of like start by setting the understanding of this as an African American romance, and what does that mean, and what kind of things do we expect to sort of see in African American romance that this book has?
Well, the first thing I think is kind of obvious. I mean, it's a black couple. I mean, a black woman, a black man. But I think more than that, in this story, we really get a sense of black culture in a sense
Mm,
of food and family and music and sisterhood and the dynamic of this couple raising their children as co-parenting, and I mean going to private schools and the things that they're doing to ensure that their children get the opportunities that they maybe didn't have.
mm,
They didn't talk a lot about her family that I can remember. I mean, her mother was there, but I don't remember them talking a lot about her family, but they did talk about, quite a bit about his family.
Yeah.
And so you see that. And on one hand, it could be like, okay, it's just romance and it's a black couple. But I think when she integrates in a lot of things like music, culture, sisterhood, the things that I'm saying, how they're raising their children, the things that they're being mindful of, and coming into some of the things we'll talk about in a little bit of the things, the wrestling that you can sometimes find. I would say it's probably a minority thing. When it comes to therapy and counseling and things like that, that has been, if it wasn't about you go into a faith-based professional to talk, you weren't going to no counselor or going to therapy. But they found themselves in a situation where it was beyond what they could do themselves. And that's kind of what leads us, we're on the other side of it, but them exploring and how it sort of was almost, tore apart their marriage. And so you see these aspects, and I think you see it in the languaging. It's not full out like some stories may have had, like Ebonics, but it does have a little bit of slang and very much feeling like a sister girl to sister girl kind of talk, right? And so you feel that. But I think ultimately you just get an experience of this upper middle class family building a business, doing what they have to do, sacrificing what they have to sacrifice for their children and their family. And along the way, it seems like love was sort of like a collateral, like they sort of lost it due to some very significant reasons. But it's sort of like they were moving on up, and in points you see the contrast of how they look back and how they felt like they were maybe much happier when they didn't have all of the things, the house, the neighborhood, the restaurant. And we see them sort of wrestle with that and the decisions that they make to keep their family on that trajectory. But also now is that moment when they start saying, like, did we lose ourselves in the process? Was it worth it? And are they able to get that back again?
Yeah. I think this kind of starts to sort of like turn us toward the mature, realistic romance because they are people who they fought to get where they are, right? They've worked so hard to get to this place in life. What that means is that they the years of newly falling in love and that fresh romance that is behind them. And so you get this contrast, just like you're talking about. And we talk a lot about this in characters when we talk about memories and looking back, and the way that their past is a juxtaposition to their present, not just, oh, we were broke then and we're successful now, right? They're looking at this exchange of something that seems to have maybe fallen through along the way, where it's like, well, we were broke then, but we were happy, we were so in love. And versus now we have everything, like we have the things that we were pursuing,
Everything.
right? Yes, everything in quotes. Our kids are in a good school, we've got the house, the restaurant is successful, but something between us broke. And so that is a unique kind of like conflict and situation you can have with characters when they are more mature characters, right? Like there's certain kinds of things that you can explore and contrast, I think, when you have characters who are further in life. Than, again, we contrast a lot with like Knock 'Em Out because that's closer in terms of contemporary romance, where Naomi's starting over. She doesn't have anything, and she has less to lose in terms of like she doesn't have kids. There's like, well, she has a ward, that I guess she kind of does have a kid, but she's like starting over, whereas they have built this whole life, but then it's almost like a Jenga block, right, that got like kind of pulled out in the middle, and the whole thing is kind of wobbling maybe. And that's a certain type of conflict that you can introduce and that you can explore when you're looking at a more mature romance of people who are a little bit later in life, but also like later in life in terms of what they have experienced and what they have done, not necessarily age, like limited to age.
Yeah, but I think the great thing about this is we do have that as well. I think
Mm.
we talk about it in one of the episodes where it sort of can reach a certain type of woman as well, a
Hmm.
certain type of reader because of where Yasmin is
Hmm.
and the sacrifices that Yasmin has made to be
Hmm.
there, and also to be the type of woman who is at the PTA meetings and who
Hmm.
is the mom that's on, mom is doing the dance,
Hmm.
um, and the sacrifices that Josiah does so that she can do that and she can freely do that. And I think the reality is, I think even in this day and age, that is still a part of, if we will, the American dream when you're coming from minority families where that really wasn't an option. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't afford that. And now you have people that have, just like them, who went to college, graduated, built something, and then made this
Yeah.
intentional choice. And
Hmm.
in that choice, the very person that they, fell in love with and thought they would always love and have never loved another person like them was
Yeah.
lost.
Hmm.
And lost and still very much present in their life, which makes this
Yeah.
really unique set of
Yeah.
circumstances. And so you have that mixture with that. But the other part of the realism, I feel, is that you feel like these are people that you know or you
Yeah.
could know.
Hmm.
And that makes it so that you really are invested
Hmm.
in their story and their outcome and in understanding like what happened to them.
Yeah.
Because everything about it, like on the surface, is like, it's too good to be true, you know?
Yeah.
And here they are now at a point where they are co-parenting and coexisting, but
Hmm.
some things are coming up that's requiring them to lean in, and where they need to be even more locked in as a unit and as parents
Hmm.
to be able to help their son and their children. And so it also throws them back on the path of how we got here, and challenges them to have conversations that they were not equipped to have. And quiet as it's
Yeah.
kept, they're not equipped to have them now either. Right. Hence the
Yeah.
story. And so that actually goes right into, like, we look at that realism, but then it goes right into that this is really not a romance about falling in love. We realize
Hmm.
early on they still care about each other, whether they say it or not. They don't have to.
Hmm.
They do not have to. The way that they are balancing their children, balancing the things that they need, balancing the restaurant, helping each other out. But it's kind of like this very amicable space, while at the same time there's an elephant in the room,
Hmm.
a huge elephant in the room that we keep just
Yeah.
walking around.
Yeah.
And so it's not about them falling in love. It really is a question of like whether they can risk um, giving each other another chance.
Hmm.
For her, it's like the guilt of being the initiator of the divorce,
Hmm.
and for him is the one that wanted to keep the marriage and having to um, go along with it because that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
And when both of them have a part to play in what happened. And
Yeah.
so you're rooting for them, you're cheering for them. And then this, and I will say this because we're saying this like this now, because y'all know when we get here, y'all, we've been recording all day, brains are fried. But this is all sort of like laced with laughter and
Hmm.
um, joy, and then the grief and therapy, and
Hmm.
discussing very hard things in a very approachable way.
Hmm.
And so we're saying it like this now, but when you're in the story, it's like you feel for them, and it really
Yeah.
does endear you to them, and you want to see them win. And it's not the
Hmm.
kind of win that they're accustomed to. They're
Yeah.
accustomed to winning. I mean, their business
Hmm.
is doing well. Their kids, for the most part, are doing well. They are doing well,
Yeah.
right? But it's asking for another layer. It's almost like, do we dare to try
Yeah.
to have it all,
Yeah.
right? Have the love and have the business and have the kids and to be thriving and have the friendships and things like that. And so it sort of goes back to it. And so yeah, and I guess because I'm rolling, there's the core of the grief and the therapy, which I've already said, that is considered a lot. And I think that ties back to when we talk about the cultural aspect of, like, talking about a Black man and his relationship with therapy,
Mm-hmm.
whether he thinks therapy works or not, whether he's supportive of it or not, and how that affects both the marriage that they lost as well as their children.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that is you hear a lot about now. I think after what we went through as a world,
Mm-hmm.
but before it wasn't something you really talked about. Again, like I said earlier, in the Black community, you just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people who did it, but you just wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And so having it here and done in this way, and why they choose to pursue it and how they choose to pursue it and the role that it plays in the story. I
Mm-hmm.
think she just does a beautiful job of it, but you
Yeah.
have to be prepared as a reader for the lows of it and what caused them to lose their way in their marriage.
Yeah, I think, there's so much at work in this story when you think about it as a very realistic story, right? Like, this is a very real story. So you have real people, and we'll talk about this honestly over the next 3 weeks. That because the people are real, we don't have villains in this
Mhm.
story. Like, all of our characters are people just trying to live their life. And again, I'll talk about this especially in characters, but I love that in a story because that's what people are really like. So Knock 'em Out, right, is fun because it's larger than life. And so, like, we like it because the characters tend more toward, like, it still has emotional depth, but they're kind of like, again, larger than life. They're a little bit kooky, like it's sort of like a um it's a kind of a wild community, right? Of just like all these really quirky people kind of like thrown together. So it has almost like kind of cozy aspect feeling to it. Whereas this community, this cast feels like people, just like you said, that you either know or that you want to know, that you could know. And I think the result is that it creates a feeling of intimacy in the story
Hmm. Hmm.
because it doesn't feel like escapism. There's sort of a grounded realness to that cast and to the conflicts that they experience that makes it feel that, like, that emotion goes even a little bit deeper and
Yeah.
it hits a little bit harder. And it also means, right, so that means that the lows feel a little bit lower because they're very real, very visceral lows. But then it also makes that connection to the characters feel deeper and feel sort of more, I almost say, like, more precious because of
Mm.
that sense of, again, the intimacy that it creates when we see a bunch of people who feel so honest. Like, again, like, so few people are just plain old bad people. And so when we get sort of immersed in this story where all of these people are doing their best, it creates, so, like, if you are looking to create a story that is more like, has more of that realistic feel and has more of that kind of realistic cast with people who are behaving in ways that are, like, we don't have any explosive drama or anything like that, this is a book for you. Like, if you were looking to create deeply realistic and real feeling characters, this is a fantastic book for that. And then when you add on, we're bringing in therapy, we're bringing in mental health without feeling like the author is just setting out to make a super specific point, where we signed up for a story and we got someone's sort of like opinion instead, where they sort of were just like, actually, what I've really brought you here to tell you is this particular thing. And right, and it's so jarring in a story because we show up and we're like, I came for fiction, and the author is like, haha, welcome to my TED Talk. And you're like, hey, if I wanted a TED Talk, I would have watched a TED Talk. And we don't have that. So that even the therapists, right, like they feel like real characters. And like again, Dr. Mosa is like one of my favorite characters. I love him so much. And so even they feel like real people and not devices in the story, right? That are like, I am here to be a mouthpiece for this thing and this is my sole purpose for the story, which is really easy to do when you're when you're trying to talk about mental health or incorporating therapy as a part of a story. I think it's really easy to kind of fall over into that, and she does not do that, and she threads that beautifully. So if those are any of those things are things you are looking to do, this is one to pick up. This is one to read for that.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel preachy, and until you really stop and kind of think about it, you really don't notice. I mean, you notice, but you don't notice. Like
Yep.
it's folded in, and she does a great job of us managing what this moment means to them, and how it's affecting their transformation. And
Yeah.
it kind of leads like to the last thing that I had, which was it leads into a realistic happily ever after. And what I like about this, I was thinking about this when we were talking about this earlier. What I really like about this is like the reality is these people were married and got a divorce, right? Like that's the thing that you don't want to do. So for you to then come back around and say, okay, I had a happily ever after, because the reality is you thought the other time was your
Yeah.
happily ever after too. So for you to have something that still feels hopeful, and that feels like that they've learned this lesson, that they are mastering this lesson, and they've equipped themselves with what they need just in case life starts lifing again, it feels like something like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can have that. Maybe I get a second chance like that. Maybe not the same
Yeah.
person, but just in life.
Yeah.
And I think what it does is like it's one of those great depictions of fiction imitating life, but in a way that really feels like nostalgic, that you just
Yeah.
feel like you're in the moment with them.
Yeah.
And this story really does embody that.
Yeah. And something else, this is sort of like, again, this is like partially tangential, but I want to also just point out something that kind of connects to this happily ever after. And I think the fact that this is a happily ever after on the other side of a divorce, right?
Yeah.
Where something that she does really well that we don't see, I think, as profoundly in a lot of other romances that we've read is male vulnerability, right?
Yes.
Like Joe, because the thing is like a lot of the stuff that we've read is just like, oh, alpha male, like, meh. And they still have this sort of emotional, right? We see how they've been wounded and we see that, but she really like Josiah. First of all, Josiah is experiencing a lot of reject, right? Like he just experienced major rejection. His wife being like, no, done, like that already is like, whoa, that's hard. But she really, like, he's deeply vulnerable and emotional. Like she really gets into the sort of like emotional side of him, while he doesn't feel like wah wah, and he's like Debbie Downer, and he's like wah, 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 and like he to make him lose all of that masculine quality that comes with the fantasy of romance, right? Like he still is like super cool, super hot, like he's got like, man, he's got a line, and he's just like he is all of the things that we want like a romance hero to be, while still while still being able to like balance that with deeply human emotion and deeply
Mm-hmm.
human experience and growth. And that is, she's done that, I think, in a way that's deeper and more like pronounced than any of the romances that we've read for the podcast so far.
Mm.
And again, I think that does come to that maturity and that realism of the story. But I think it's like, I think that's something that an author might be hesitant to do because it could sort of like slip into them feeling like a womp womp, you know? And in our male lead especially, like we don't want the womp womp. We don't want that at all. We want the womp womp in a different way at a different time, you know? And so
Rachel, the what?
God.
The womp womp.
This is how you know it's like the end of the day, and it's like, Rachel, what are you saying? And I'm like, I don't know, but I regret it deeply. So I just think that when we think about this, as being a second chance on the other side of a divorce, and you're looking at, a male character who has dealt with this rejection, and you're going really into that sort of emotional side, I think she did that really, really well. And like I said, sort of like even better than what we've seen in a lot of our previous picks.
Yeah, and I think part of this, even as you're saying that, it's the reality that the absence of the suspense or sort of action element really does take away the ability for him to go into like macho masculine. That what we instead see is him flex that energy in a way towards her and his children.
Yeah.
And that, I think that just makes him more like endearing and attractive and all that stuff in the story, because it's the thing that's like the emotional availability, when in reality part of it is that he's not emotionally available, but that's what the story's for. And you see that, and she does it really well without it being overkill, and without it being unrealistic or unbelievable or unrelatable. And so I totally agree. And that sort of, and then so when we, with the realistic HEA, I also tack on that it sort of just lends itself to a certain type of hope. Right? Because at the end of the day, like the reason why people read romance, they can say what they want to say, like, oh, is this another? It does give you this sense of like love is out there. Like the kind of love that I'm looking for exists. Right? It can feel like this, it can be like this. And it wasn't promising this far, most of the time it's like, and I love a good billionaire romance, right? Like, rolling off into the sunset in a private
jet. Not know where that was about to go. Oh man, there were so many words that I was like, I'm not sure which word she's about to say.
I was gonna hide it. But, like going off into the sunset, in a private jet, no, this is like a family deciding that our family is our priority. And so those are my notes. I will say that there are some things that, like, as we move into the conversations, there are some cons that are rooted in the very things that we love about it. But I think that after this, like the next 3 episodes, you're going to see that there is a balanced treatment of both, and just recommendations on some things that we find that may be aspects of the story that Kennedy Ryan gets away with, because she's Kennedy Ryan. You know what I mean? But in the end, it's a story that we, really truly enjoyed and had a great discussion around this. And I do think it brought a unique aspect to our existing reading list.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, I'll just sort of like tack on my sort of final point here is, we have so many we talked so much about these sort of deviations from what we would kind of typically see in romance. And again, I think that you are right to, especially in this overview episode, to point out that like all the things that we're talking about that we love, there's some pros and some cons to that. And over the next few weeks, we are going to talk about those things so that you can make informed choices, right? As you are writing, and know what you are doing, and make intentional choices to say, okay, if this is the con, is there a way that I can help offset that with whatever I'm setting up in my story? What's so interesting is we have a lot of these sort of like deviations from what we typically would see in romance, but we do also have some tropes that we recognize.
Come on.
Which was, it was so fun for me to be reading, and I was like, oh, I know that one. Oh my gosh. And it's funny because, you talked about this is not a romance about falling in love, because that's already happened, right? And they never really stopped loving each other. And so the fact that we got these tropes in a story about 2 people who are like, they've already been married, they're not having sex for the first time. This is not like, new. It's been a while, but it's not new. And so we get a few of these like tropes that I like recognize from other romances that we've read. So we have this sort of like, let's just get it out of our system this one time, which again I just love because you sort of have this. And let me go ahead and hit this one as well. We get a one bed trope moment,
Yep.
which I think is actually like in the moment I was like, this feels a little crazy, but the more I think about it, the more I kind of love it, because we were talking about a married couple, right? It's like, so it's not the same like, oh no, what are we gonna do? It's like they've been married, they've shared a bed before, and that's precisely why that's so tense, and so I love that sort of like twist on the one bed trope, because it's like for a previously married couple, in some ways it shouldn't be as shocking, but it's almost because of their history, because they were married, that it is so like, oh no, which I thought that was very clever. It was a nice like twist on that. So we've got, let's just get it out of our system. We saw a one bed trope out in the wild, and we also have these sort of like no strings attached, let's just keep having sex and I don't know, it'll be fine, which I just think is so interesting to see those particular tropes in a story that is not a romance about falling in love, and that she still was able to take these very familiar tropes and play them in a way that they're very recognizable, but they're ultra specific to this scenario. And I was like, I'm intrigued. I was not expecting to see these tropes show up here the way that she did them. And again, using that to sort of like give kind of an unexpected twist to them, which is really, again, I was delighted. I was like, huh, how about that?
Well, and I will add, because you put those, we also have the forced proximity. And one of the other aspects about Josiah that I like is that, when you look at some of the other stories, the emotional unavailable aspect of the character is sort of what usually turns them into grumpy or the boss hole or some of those other aspects. And what you find here, it just makes him closed off. Like
Yeah.
he's present and he is very much there for the kids, and he's there for her too.
Yeah.
But there is a very kind of clear, invisible wall there,
Yeah.
right? Of turning off those emotions when it's directed towards her that we see in the beginning. That it's not a unique thing, but it's not something you commonly see when you think about an emotionally unavailable male character, and so you do see that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't already picked up this book, we've got 3 weeks of fantastic conversation coming down the pipeline. So highly recommend you grab this book and give it a listen. You can probably, it's about 10 or 11 hours, I think. Maybe it's longer than that. I thought it was 10 or 11, but I think you could reasonably have it read in time for our next episode. So I highly recommend, if any of these things are like things that you are thinking you might like to do, go ahead and grab it. Go ahead and give it a listen. Dana, are there any last points, any last things you wanted to hit for our overview episode before we wrap for the day?
Well, just two that are around characters, and we'll talk about this more in the characters episode, but I think it would be great to mention. One is that we do get the opportunity to meet the female protagonist of the for the rest of the series. And a very unique aspect of it is that their friendship was formed after the divorce.
Yeah.
So it makes for a very unique sort of angle, that her forming these very close sisterly bonded friendships after the fail, if you will, of her marriage. And the final thing is that you have a very unique treatment of the children. The children, Kasim and Deja, both have their own emotional arcs and very unique circumstances that they are experiencing, that are partly because, the overflow of the divorce, and, having both of their parents there, emotionally, and supporting them still 100%, if you will, and very much in tuned, that you still see the residual of the family sort of falling apart. And so those two aspects are very uniquely done and a great addition to the layers of this story. But other than that, I think this is a great story. The audiobook and the narration is amazing. If
Oh, the
you do
audiobook is really
audiobook,
good.
it is. It
Yeah.
really is. And we look forward to, having you with us for the next installments of the podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You guys know this is a Dana pick, so everybody just thank Dana for this pick. And again, if you haven't read it, go ahead and grab it and give it a read, give it a listen. The audiobook really is good. It's because I think the audiobook, just as an aside, I would almost say it's not narrated, it's acted, right? Like it's really like the narration is very emotionally delivered. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So, awesome. Okay. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us for our overview of Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. We've got lots and lots to look forward to, so I hope you guys are as excited as we are. In the meantime, don't forget to visit us at storydeepdive.com. Give us a like, a follow, subscribe to us either on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave us a comment, rating, review. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear, again, books you guys want to see, questions you have, your own thoughts or reactions to the stories that we're reading. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we will be back next week to talk about the plot of this story. So we're going to dive deep into plot next week. And of course, after that, we'll get into characters. So in the meantime, thank you guys so much for joining us. And as always, happy writing.